Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's well this morning and you had a lovely weekend. So, we're discussing taking your temperature. This is something that is essential, I believe, for most people, especially women, to do. And I've noticed a lot of my clients have gotten a bit lackadaisy, as we say in Ireland, or a bit hit and miss with taking their temperature in the morning. But you need to take your temperature in 2025. Taking your temperature is literally the gold standard test for thyroid function. Taking your temperature, super easy, like low barrier of entry. You get yourself, ideally I like oral thermometers, so this is the one I use and recommend with my clients, and I will drop the link below in the comments. But this is like such an easy test, and like I said, it's the gold standard for testing your thyroid over blood tests, over everything else. Taking your temperature is gold standard for thyroid function. It's super easy, like super easy. Ideally, you would do it twice a day, but once a day is going to give us a good indication of what's going on with your thyroid, and if you have thyroid dysfunction or low thyroid function or hypothyroidism, because your thyroid controls your metabolic rate, and that also means your basal metabolic rate, so your body temperature, and there is heart rate, which we can test too. But you absolutely need to be doing this in 25, if not sooner, if not right now. When we take our temperature, that's going to tell us, like I said, if our thyroid is functioning optimally or it's under functioning. So we're going to take our temperature as soon as we wake up in the morning. Ideally, the thermometer should read between 36.6 degrees Celsius and 37.2. That is like the perfect range to indicate that your thyroid and metabolism is working optimally. In some cases, I'm happy enough to see 36.2 first thing in the morning and upwards from there. In some cases, in some people, that's still too low. The majority of the people I speak to, they're 35.7, 35.8. That is extremely low first thing in the morning. So we want to see that range of good thyroid function on the higher end of the 36s. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep your thermometer on your bedside table. And as soon as your alarm goes off, you're going to hit the alarm, grab your thermometer, and you're going to pop it under your tongue as far back as it will go. You'll know when it's right in there. Keep your mouth closed. It takes about 20 seconds to take this temperature. So you take your temperature before you do anything else. Do not move, because any movement will influence your temperature. So you take your temperature and then you jot it down either on a piece of paper or a notepad on your phone. If you want to do this again later in the day, the ideal time is 40 minutes after your lunch. At that stage, your body has digested and assimilated a lot of the nutrients and energy out of your lunch. So you should see your temperature increase at that stage. If your temperature, let's say, was 36.6 when you woke up, which is amazing, then after lunch you would expect to be closer to 37, because food fuels your metabolism and your thyroid, and as the day goes on you would expect to warm up and you peak around mid-afternoon, and then it'll start to decline again. Your thyroid is ideally functioning highest first thing in the morning. It's during that tail end of our sleep where we produce thyroid hormone, if we are producing it and converting it properly. So then we see highest thyroid activity first thing in the morning, and this obviously can be advantageous when we look at burning calories on a walk or exercise or whatnot. But regardless, taking your temperature is an easy, very easy, effective test to do at home to tell you if your thyroid and metabolism is working. There are a lot of practitioners out there that would agree that testing your thyroid, even a full thyroid panel, is pointless nowadays. Even the full thyroid panels, they're not accurate because most of our hormones are stored in our tissues. They're not in our blood. Our hormones go to the tissues, they attach to the cells. They're not floating around in our blood. So we're getting to the stage where it's almost pointless unless you're testing the tissues, which you can do. You can test nails and hair. And the Dutch test can be effective as well because it's the byproducts, but we're getting to the stage where testing hormones in blood is pointless, and we're better off doing these other tests and looking at the symptom picture. So taking your temperature, your basal metabolic rate when you wake up is one. The other is taking your pulse. You can also take your pulse. I've done loads of videos on this. I have a podcast episode. I believe it's titled 4 at-home tests for your thyroid. So go listen to that. I go through the 4 very simple, effective tests you can do at home to test your thyroid and metabolism. And I know this is contrary to what people have been told by their doctors, but doctors do go very much by the book. And I'm not trying to say all doctors are wrong, but they don't always look at the full scope of things. And just because your lab tests or your doctors say that, oh, everything's fine or your numbers are in range, does not mean it's true, especially if you still feel rubbish and you have all these symptoms and you're cold, you're constipated, you're having issues losing weight, your hands, feet, nose are cold, you're losing hair, your skin is dry, your nails are brittle, you have mental health and menstrual issues like reoccurring illnesses. These all give us a better picture of your thyroid than any labs will. Not only does taking your temperature give you an indication of thyroid function, it also gives you a very clear indication of your hormones and what's going on with them. Because low thyroid and low progesterone, they're pretty much the same thing. If you have low thyroid, you can confidently assume that you have low progesterone. If you have low progesterone, you can confidently assume that you have low thyroid. If you have low thyroid and low progesterone, you do have high estrogen and high adrenaline. Estrogen and adrenaline being our primary stress hormone, and there's lots of stress hormones. Estrogen is a stress hormone. Most people don't know that. Estrogen is a stress hormone. Another thing people don't know is vitamin D is actually a thyroid hormone. Most people don't know that. Estrogen will slow down thyroid function. Estrogen is anti-thyroid. It blocks thyroid. Adrenaline, being our main stress hormone, it will block thyroid function. It will increase estrogen, but it also suppresses progesterone. We'll be learning a lot more about progesterone this evening in our progesterone class in this group. But when we are producing progesterone is pro-thyroid. As your progesterone peaks, especially around and after ovulation, you will see your temperature increase. Your metabolism will increase, and you can see that by taking your temperature. So you've got a steady state in the first half of your follicular phase, and then you ovulate. That's where ideally, but this is a whole other conversation, you would ovulate, and then you would get that boost in progesterone, and then progesterone would stay high, creeping, and it would be at its highest just before, about 4 to 3 days before you have your bleeds. That then can tell us, well, I did ovulate, I am making progesterone, and if it doesn't increase, if it stays lower or drops lower, you know I'm not making any progesterone at all, and this obviously has a connection to my lower thyroid and weight gain and whatever other results or issues you're dealing with. Taking your thyroid also, one thing people don't consider is taking your thyroid can tell you if what you're doing on your plan to improve your metabolism and your thyroid and your progesterone and your whole hormonal profile is actually working. You should start to see in about 3 to 4 weeks an increase, even a small increase in your temperature trends that tells you what I'm doing is actually working. If you don't see that increase, you know this is not working for me. I'm going to have to change things up a bit. So there's many reasons why doing something as simple as taking your temperature in the morning upon waking, and if again you want to 40 minutes after lunch, it's a very, very good idea. Like a very good idea. And it's so easy. And it has to become a habit. I don't know how a lot of my clients have kind of forgot to do this. Before you get out of bed, hit the alarm, pop it under your tongue. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. It needs to become a habit. It's a very valuable tool. When you write this down in notepad on your phone or on a piece of paper, that is data. That is data that you're seeing in real time from your body immediately. So why wouldn't you do it? There's another thing that you need to recognize as well. Well, there's a few things. So I mentioned in the second half of your cycle where you get that boost in progesterone, you will see your temperature increase. Then as soon as you bleed, and even through a lot of the first half of your cycle, even though you do have some progesterone there, estrogen really dominates there. Estrogen will, like I said, suppress thyroid. Therefore, you will see a drop in your temperature, which is, again, why it's important to track every day so you can see these trends. When you have a very crappy night's sleep, when your sleep is just awful, you'll see your temperature will just plummet, which tells you your metabolism has just dropped because of that huge inflammatory response, that big stress response that you get from not sleeping properly. So there's a lot of considerations, but you see this simple tool of taking your temperature not only is super easy, super affordable, not really invasive, it's going to give you a whole host of data that is, like I said, real time. It's exactly what your body is telling you in that moment, and that can be used. You could even give that to your doctor or endocrinologist in the future and say, look, I've been tracking my temperature, and if they know what they're doing, they'll recognize, hey, this is good or bad. This is data that goes above testing. This is data that you can do and take and track for yourself every single day so that you can then take the action and understand what your body is saying to you. Everybody absolutely needs to be taking their temperature in 2025 if they want to optimize their health, their energy, their metabolism, their results, their hormones. You need to be taking your temperature. I will pop a link for this thermometer. I like this one. It's oral, and it's really an ovulation thermometer, so it's pretty accurate, but which is why I like it, because it's accurate. It's designed specifically for ovulation, which is really what we want, because we want to know if we're making progesterone, if we're boosting our thyroid, if our thyroid's working optimally. I like this one. If you were to use an under the arm thermometer, you are going to have to leave it there for 10 to 12 minutes to get an accurate result. I'm not a huge fan of the ear or forehead thermometers, really. When we look at it, and according to Dr. Broda Barnes, who wrote the book 1976, Hypothyroidism, The Unsuspected Illness, and Dr. Ray Peat, and a lot of these specialists in hormones and thyroid, Either oral or under the arm are where we want to be at. And obviously oral is a lot faster because who has 10 to 12 minutes to lie in bed? You could do rectal or vaginally if you wanted to. This would work for something like that, but I don't think most people want to do that, so let's just stick with oral. So I hope this was helpful. Check out the other videos and podcasts I've done on testing. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I will respond as soon as possible. Have a great day, everyone.